Hello and welcome inside the Parc Fermé F1 podcast number 700, or as I'm calling the 700 Club. This is Todd.
No, Todd, not now.
AKA Negative Camber. Tonight, for your kind consideration, we are going to be discussing the number 7. But first, you know why I've asked you here.
You must convince the villagers that I'm harmless.
That's exactly what I need you to do. So tonight, we're going to cover this. We're going to cover our 700th episode. It's amazing to believe we got here. But before doing that, I have to introduce my guest tonight, which of course means I have to go all the way to the right coast of America, nestled in our nation's capital.
Grace!
It's Grace! Grace, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Todd. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Grace, let me be the first to congratulate you on your 700th podcast.
Thanks. Well, you were on all of them. I was not on all of them, but thank you.
No, well, you're on a lot of them.
That is true, and somehow people still keep on listening. But yeah, no, it's been a good time.
Yeah, it's been a little while. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's been like 3 races, and I
know.
Quite a stint since I've talked to you last.
I know. Well, let's get your lowdown before we jump into my notes and stuff for this show. Let's get your impression on the last 3 races. What are you thinking?
All right, so, I thought when I started watching Spa, I'm like, I should, write down some things, because you're going to ask me this on the next podcast. Did I? No, I'm like, I don't remember. I don't. Whatever. I do remember from Spa, I do like, this is totally a random thing that I like from Spa, but that they did the reverse helicopter angle so that you'd watch the car, the car that goes this way and the helicopter's going this way, so your viewpoint is this way. I thought that was such a cool angle. I wish they did that more often, because you're used to seeing coming up Eau Rouge and the camera's behind the car, so you watch them go up Eau Rouge, right?
Right.
But it was cool to watch them come up, into Eau Rouge, right? But the helicopter was here, so you watch them come towards the camera.
Right.
So I thought they did that angle a lot at Spa, and I thought that really looked cool everywhere on the track. And I'm like, and it really helped you get a sense of the elevation by watching the cars come up the hill instead of following behind them going up the hill. So I thought that was super cool, and I wish they would do something like that at Monaco or something like that. That
Grace,
was a cool shot.
To F1's credit, I have noticed a few different camera shots, camera angles this year, and it hasn't been lost. And a few of our listeners have emailed or commented in social media that, hey, I really like that camera angle or this new camera angle. And there's been a few, and to your point, Spa was a little different viewing angle. So I thought that was, I'm glad to see him mix it up a little bit.
I thought it was cool. I thought, they should, it's a subtle touch, right?
It is.
It's kind of like, when the tracks use the like they use in football games, right? Where the camera goes the whole way down. That's always a cool shot too, right? Because then you can just follow the car the whole way down. I was just thinking, did the Chiefs win? It's totally unreal.
Oh, I haven't even looked.
Oh, they were in overtime when I came upstairs. I don't know.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
I don't know who won.
Normally, I would be all over this, but I've been so absolutely
it was a good game. It was pretty
pressed
close.
all the way up against the computer here.
Oh, well, I don't know.
Show more. Well, I'm going to tell you here if I can find it. You would think that would be right at the top of my feed. It would be a big...
Well, or just, the top of the scores or something. I mean, it was a really close game. And, we watched Red Zone. And so I was just like, I just assumed that it was Kansas City. I was like, oh, the Chargers are ahead. When did that happen? Right.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Wow. Well,
we'll never know. Maybe by the end of the show.
Maybe by the end of the show, we'll know.
Maybe they're in 8th overtime. I don't know. They were... It's like, well, I guess I won't know.
I don't know, man. That's crazy. I was just trying to figure it out. You think I would know this, and I'm trying to find the final 23-20. Chiefs won.
Oh, very good. So there you go. Congratulations.
Woo, woo. There you go.
I try to pay attention. Well, and it helps that now the Chiefs are a good game that you want to watch, right? So
right. I
mean, it happens to all teams. I'm just saying that, you want to watch the Chiefs now are a good game, usually. So I thought that was really cool out of Spa.
Yep.
And then let's see, what else?
Well, you had to like Gasly win in Monza.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, who didn't, right? And I think that, and him just sitting on the podium, well, I was just like, yeah, you know what I mean? That was that's how we all feel. I can't.
It's a great moment.
Right. Yeah. It was just every emotion at one time in that one picture, and the fact that there was no fans around, and it just, it was a cool thing that he just kind of sat down, and then. it was great too because we were watching, Ted Kravitz, does his little like thing afterwards.
Yeah.
And he was waiting to talk to Peter Gasly, but of course everybody was waiting to talk to
Yeah,
Peter
sure.
Gasly, right? And so he was just like stretching it. I was really quite impressed by the amount of material, like, because it's, he has this little flip book and he's like telling you little facts and he's like saying things. And at some point he's like, well, now I'm out of stuff and we're still waiting for him. And so now he's just like ad-libbing. Meanwhile, his cameraman, I do enjoy that he's just like, we're zooming in on random things, whatever he can find, right? He's not even watching Ted. We have no idea what Ted's doing. He's just like, but then at one point, my favorite was, so you can see them through the pit garage, right? Because he's not allowed over on the other side because then he'd be in their bubble, right? So the cameraman zooms in. So you can see they're taking the picture and Franz Toast, goes up the steps and talks to Ted and says hi. And then somebody comes running by with the trophy because they've got to take the picture with the trophy. And then anybody who watched this is now like, thanks, Grace. This is great television. This is great radio. But anyway, it was really just that Ted referred to him as Party Man Franz Toast, which I always think of your story of him.
Yeah.
Which, that's the last superlative I would ever associate with that guy. But it was just really funny that he goes, and there goes Party Man Franz Toast. Like,
yeah, he's such a party man. Yeah.
That's the first thing I thought of too.
Yeah, I've literally been to a party with him, and yeah, he's not a party man.
No, not at all. And nothing about his personality, like, it's kind of like your story about Christian Horner, right?
Yeah.
It fits him. Like, you totally, like, yep, that story sounds about right. Like, same thing with this one. That story sounds exactly how I would have pictured Franz Toast at a party. Get some appetizers, do the loop, out the door. I'm done. Party. I was here. It's over. He's that kind of guy. So yeah, so of course. And then second, no, we were in Mugello. I was like, where do we go next?
Yeah, the Tuscan Grand Prix.
That's right. And that was when Albon got the podium and they had the big crash at the restart.
Yeah.
So
the standing
George
restart
Russell.
twice.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Because Carlos Sainz, I swear that guy is either on the podium, right, the week before, he's on the podium,
or he's in the
wall.
wall.
Last. What? Come on, man! Like,
truly a win or minute guy.
Right? And was it at Spa that his car just didn't start, right? Because that was a big joke that he had the Ferrari engine a half a year early, right? So it's like, man, Sainz cannot catch a break. He's either on the podium or sucks, but not his fault. So yeah, that was super. Thanks, George Russell. That was super crazy.
That was a crazy race.
Yeah, it was a crazy race, and Mugello was like 3 races or whatever. So it was weird.
Yeah.
So that's
good.
It was good. I also did watch I watched the last 24 minutes of the 24-hour Le Mans this morning. I watched like the last hour.
Oh, from the safety car onward. Then.
That's the kind of 24-hour racing I could watch. Like, we got up. Flip was like, let's watch Le Mans. I'm like, oh, that's right. Because I have no sense of when anything is anymore, right? Like, Indy's in August, the Kentucky Derby was in August. Like, I don't know. Like, usually
the Tour de France?
Right. Usually you're just like, oh, isn't it Le Mans time? Who knows? No, there's no time anymore. So,
I know.
So we watched it this morning, but then I like that one of the announcers is like, oh, it's the 24 minutes of Le Mans. I'm like, perfect. This is the kind of supercar or sports car racing I could get behind. 24 minutes.
Yeah. That was kind of crazy.
It was, and I will say but I'm going to say now I shouldn't ever complain about Formula One graphics again. What the hell? All they did was list the number and the car numbers. I'm like, I don't watch very often, and so it's just like Buemi, I know him, or and Davidson, I know him. Like, so it's just like names or Jav, right? Like, it's people I know from other series, but like, could you at least give me 3 letters or something? Like, car numbers, that's even in Formula One, would car numbers help me? Like, I know Lewis is 44 and I know there's is 4, right?
Yeah, there's a part of me that, we always talk about, okay, look, every time you do a broadcast, it shouldn't be like this seeker sensitive broadcast where you're patronizing and you're always retelling the most rudimentary things. And you got to assume that your audience is going to evolve with you in the sport. But I got to be honest with you, that might be a bridge too far because there's a bunch of cars in that series, and they all have multiple drivers, and it's very difficult to keep track, and all the way down to the point of you're looking at the car number, and where it's at, I'm thinking, okay, but which driver's in it? Okay,
Right.
even if I knew all three drivers in that car, which one's in that car, right?
Yeah.
And
Y-
so, yeah, I don't
No, I
know what
didn't.
was going on there. And the
I
only
don't know. It
feed
was
I could
weird.
get was Motor Trend
Yeah, that's
TV.
what we watched, right? It
I don't
was
know where all
weird.
those announcers came from, the
I mean,
overnight.
yeah, and like, but like our excitement was like, oh wait, that's Zach Brown.
Yeah,
Like
I
I
could
know
see
that
Zach.
person.
He's like, woo, United Motorsports, because
Yeah,
he
and
was
especially,
excited.
with the masks on, right? It's like everybody looks like
Yeah,
Vettel is my joke, right? Like I don't know, but I'm like, oh, Zach Brown, I know who that is. Even with
yeah,
his mask on, I recognize him. I don't
yeah,
know. Some of
yeah.
those other guys could have been somebody that I knew
I
too,
know.
but I just
And
couldn't
I was
recognize.
trying to follow PDR. I'm a PDR fan, and I
Yeah,
was trying to follow him, and
it was.
you couldn't tell if when he was in the car, but Fissy's driving that Ferrari around. Is a Fissy in there or
I
not?
don't know. It was just really. I'm like, okay, I guess I shouldn't be so hard on Formula
No,
One,
I
but
know. Yeah, I
I
agree.
will be. I'm just saying that. Don't send me
Yeah,
emails
yeah,
later saying
yeah.
you said you wouldn't be. No, I'm gonna be, but I'm just saying
Right,
that was like really hard.
right, right.
And sports cars are, endurance racing is already hard enough because you have, three different classes on the track and you're trying to keep
Yeah,
everything straight. And
multiple drivers, and yeah,
yeah, what's
there's a
going on?
lot of stuff going on, and
Yeah, but it was good. I enjoyed my what last
24
hour.
minutes. Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
it
that's
was
good.
good.
Yeah, and then the Tour de France, that was wow, that was
Yeah.
crazy. Today was the final stage as they
Okay.
rode into Paris, but it was really the individual time trial yesterday blew the entire GC up, and the guy that had been in the Mahjong for 11 days, Primož Roglic, ends up losing it on the last day on an
Oh
individual time
no.
trial to a fellow Slovenian, and it was amazing. And my man Richie Port got from sixth all the way up to a podium. So it just, yeah,
That's
it
great.
was all crazy, man.
Yeah.
So that was whack. That was this weekend, and
Yeah.
Le Mans and everything else. So
Yeah.
kudos to Toyota for the win, and Paul should be happy because Aston Martin won their class,
They
huh?
sure did. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was yeah, and then that was the other thing too is the Aston Martin. The race car doesn't look like the road car. I mean, like that
Yeah.
happens, right? And so I'm like, there's a lot of that because it's not they don't necessarily look like I would expect them
Right.
to be able to
Right.
recognize them, having really only seen the road cars at this point. But this is totally aside. So Aston Martin's doors on their road car, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before. You know how you hate that a car door only goes like here or here?
Yeah.
It's never
Right.
where you want it. The Aston Martins have little things. Gosh, this is what happens when I record too late at night for myself. That hold the door wherever you leave it. So you don't have to have it like
Ah,
this
nice.
little here or all the way open because
Right.
it's never where you need it, right? On every car door. And hydraulics, I think, is the word I was looking for. But
Yeah.
anyway, save like a little hydraulic in it so that you can put the door wherever you want it and it stays. And I don't know why more cars don't have this.
I don't either because my door,
Weirdest thing ever.
it's either opens up to the first notch where it's not enough, I can't get out of it,
Right, right. That's what I mean.
or it opens too far and bangs into my wife's car next to me in the garage.
Right, right.
There's no in between. It's either I can't get out of the
Exactly.
car or I'm dinging the crap out of my wife's car.
Right.
You
And
know?
God forbid I have like food or something like in my lap that
Oh,
I'm
I
now
know.
trying to get
Yeah,
out with.
yeah,
Forget it.
yeah.
If it's more than just me, I can't get out the door, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah. You've been down to 7-Eleven. You've got
yeah.
a Coke. It's so large. It's got an
Forget it.
undertow in it. And you're
Yeah.
trying to get out of the car and the door's all wedged and you're trying to get, it's just, yeah, it's crazy. I know.
So I really,
The
I
Aston
mean,
Martin just has it wherever
wherever I
wherever
want
I
it.
leave you, that's where you're staying.
I was just like, how is this not on more cars? How, like, all this, we always talk about like the tech that a Mercedes brings and that trickles down into other cars and all
Yeah,
these kind
yeah,
of things.
yeah.
Like, where is this? Why don't I would pay extra for that. If somebody said to me, well, we're going to
Right.
put the little hydraulics in your door, I would pay for that.
I'm thinking now that Paul is the sporting manager for an Aston Martin
should do
team,
that.
Aston Martin should do that with Paul. So wherever we put Paul, that's where he stays.
Just as open as we want them to be.
Just as open or closed as we want him to be,
Oh.
and then and his wife would appreciate that too because if she
That's
gets up
right.
in the morning, puts him in the kitchen, and then she leaves when she gets home, she knows where he's at.
And I'm just saying, based on his Facebook, I mostly want him in the kitchen because he seems
Yeah,
to be
have
making
you
some
seen
pretty
what he cooks?
delicious stuff. Yeah.
I know the guy's like, yeah, he's like Chef Paul down there.
Right. So that's why I'd like to keep him
Yeah,
as
me
somewhere
too.
near.
That's why I said kitchen. Yeah, the guy's
Well,
he's always like, he's one of those guys. Well, let's see what we got in the cupboard. Okay, well we've got some
Absolutely.
nuts and some leftover shrimp tails, and then next thing you know, he's got this culinary
Delicious.
delight
Right.
that you would have never thought of.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah.
It's very good cook.
Got some
So
Tabasco, grape nuts, and shrimp tails. Let's go.
she get them on Chopped, right?
Yeah,
What
exactly.
you come up with.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
very, very good. But yeah, so there's a
Yeah.
lot, and then there's a lot of MotoGP going on as well. So
Oh, sure.
it's been busy, and now every sport is going too, right? So
I know
football started,
baseball.
baseball's
Everybody's
going, basketball
gaming.
just
Yeah.
is in the playoffs. I was just like, oh, now we went for like 7 months with no sports, it feels like, and now it's like every sport at one
Every
time.
sport at one
Tennis,
time.
golf, everything is
I know,
happening right
I know,
now.
I know. It's probably good that they can't have fans there because nobody could possibly attend all the
No.
sporting events that you would normally do because it's spaced out through the year, you know?
Right. So it's just a lot now all of a sudden, which I guess I'm not complaining, but it
Yeah.
was just funny that we went for like so long with nothing, and now we have everything all at once every
Yeah, I
day.
think the Cardinals, they had, I don't know how many double headers and
I'm sure.
and it's going so fast and furious. I didn't even know they were doing only 7 inning baseball games instead of
Oh,
9. So I didn't even know that. So
that would be fine.
I'm so out of the loop.
I mean, baseball already had like 500 games, so now they're down to like 250
Yeah.
or something. Like, well, maybe it's a manageable season now,
Right.
right? I mean,
Right.
it's still
Right.
like a zillion baseball games, and I know
Yeah,
we
it
go see the
is.
Orioles, so they should end at the 7th inning anyway.
Yeah.
They should just have a mercy rule. We used to joke about that too, right? Like, and
Right.
especially because Red Sox, like Yankees fans already know they're superior, so they're just like
Yeah.
quietly smug. But
Yeah.
Red Sox fans are still, it's not quite as bad, but when they first won their championship, they were very new to the like, we're the best kind of thing. And so they tell us all the time, like,
Yeah.
I'm an Orioles fan, right? Do you see how bad we're losing? I have season tickets. Yeah, you're better than us. I'm better than them,
I know. Yeah, the Boston, every once in a while I bump into the Boston fans. They're always lecturing me about how awesome Boston is and everything. It's like, well, okay, but how many world championships do you have
Yeah,
again?
exactly.
Yeah. The Cardinals
That-
have 11. So,
yeah.
uh,
Although Flip always argues that, because I always joke that the Steelers have more Super Bowl wins, and he thinks the ones that I wasn't alive for shouldn't count.
oh, see now, yeah, see that doesn't work.
Only the ones I'm alive for should
Yeah,
count.
see that
so that
doesn't
he has
work.
more.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. That doesn't work.
I was like, I don't think that's the way that
The
works.
franchise was happening before Grace was born.
Right. So anyway,
Yeah, and if they, because it was there because I suffered through decade after decade after decade with the Chiefs,
yeah.
and now they win the Super Bowl, and I walk around and everybody's magically a Chiefs fan. No. I was sitting in the stadium freezing my butt off watching Steve Fuller throw interceptions and Bill Kinney back in the day, all right, or Steve DeBerg. So don't tell me about it. I know.
Yeah. So I had friends that they were football, one liked, the Washington football team and one likes the Ravens or something
Yeah,
like that. So when
yeah.
they got married, they picked a third team to like, right? Like that neither of them could carry their teams. They picked a third team together. They were trying to convince me I should do the same thing. I being a Steelers fan,
Right.
Ravens fan. I was like, I didn't watch Bubby Brister and Neil O'Donnell to give up on the Steelers now. Like,
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, come on, man.
oh, the coward, come on, man. I
It's
refuse.
it's like I don't even know what's going on in football in the Premier League, but everybody told me almost at gunpoint that I had to pick one team and one only. So
Right.
I ended up I like Newcastle, and everybody's like, "Oh, no, don't pick."
Mm-mm.
So I like their jersey. No, don't pick Newcastle. So I ended up just said, okay, well, what about Arsenal? Is that a safe bet? And I said, okay, what about Tottenham? And they're, oh no, all the chavs like the Tottenham. And I was like, what?
I don't even know what that word means.
About. And they're like, oh no, pick. And so I picked Arsenal, and Charlie's like, oh gosh, Arsenal, because he's a big West Ham fan.
Right.
So Arsenal just beat West Ham this weekend, and Paul sends me a gift flipping me off. So it was nice.
Nice.
That was a sweet touch from Paul. I stand firm on my Aston Martin door system for Paul.
needs to get on that, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I like it.
again-
So I know everyone is sitting at home going,
Get to the show!
This is the show.
this is the show, folks. There's really not much F1 news out there. I got to be honest with you. I mean, yeah, there is, but it's all like, oh,
no, Ferrari's terrible.
yeah, Ferrari's bad, and okay, yeah.
They are
So
pretty-
yeah,
they-
it's and this isn't really about news. So this might be the one podcast you just like, okay, I'm gonna skip.
During the season, I think we have plenty of shows that are about Formula One.
Oh, I know. The winter. If you made it all the way through the winter, then you've heard us wax poetic about
Especially
everything
this-
but F1.
This past off season, which was like 7 months longer.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, with nothing to talk about.
Right,
The
right.
the COVID.
Yeah.
So anyway, so
COVID shows.
tonight we are going to talk about our podcast. Look, over 15 years ago, I started this silly blog called Formula1blog.com. And I was just posting stuff to myself. And it was a simple website. It had a header that had a picture of a Sauber F1 car with wet tires on it. And it was Nick Heidfeld driving it. And it was across the top. And the font was like, I don't know, it was probably like Comic Sans or something ridiculous. And then so we put it up there. Grace was the first person to ever stumble on it on a Google search, found it, and made a comment on it, and then the rest is history. But all these years and millions of downloads later, we have reached our 700th episode. Now, to be fair to us, if you count all the downshift interviews that I've done in the past, we're closer to 800 episodes. But that's nitpicking because those are technically a different format. They're just interview podcasts. But suffice it to say, we've done a lot. So I was thinking, well, there's not a lot of Formula One news, and how do you tie your milestone 700th podcast to Formula One when there's not a lot of news out there? And I thought, well, I've got an idea. I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to, and everybody's like, well, okay, all right, then we're not going to listen. Well, I totally understand, but there's just not a lot of news out there. So tonight, what I thought might be fun, and just bear with me on this, folks. I'm typically not one to take liberties with you, but bear with me here. I thought it would be fun to take the number 700 and see what kind of random crap I could come up with in Formula One around the number 700. So I thought, well, that might be fun. If anything, indulge me on this, okay? Just humor me on this. I'm going to get through it, and then, you can chuck this one and look forward to the race review from Russian Grand Prix next weekend.
People enjoy everything we do.
They don't. They really don't.
They do.
No, they don't. Yeah, I get the negatives. I get the the comments, and
Well, then listen to somebody else's podcast.
Like, oh, the guy who hosts thinks he's funny. No, I really don't.
Okay, so you've really done like 800 shows. At this point, don't people have a sense of like?
Yeah, I know. You think look,
right? Like,
either this is your bag or it's not, right?
I mean, it's kind of like when you tell women they have a high pitched voice. A, that shouldn't matter. B, it's my voice. What do you want me to do? Right? Like,
can't change it.
It is what it is. Here we are.
It is what it is. I know. We're not everybody's bag, and I get it. But
whatever. Sure.
All right. So number one is the obvious 700th race. What was the 700th race? I'll get it in a minute. 700th race in the Formula One. And I thought, well, that's prescient, Grace, because we just got done celebrating for the 1000th, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, well, this would be prescient. So what was the 700th race? And I know some of you out there will go, oh, well, I know exactly what that was. And some of you go, how would I know what the 700th
Would people really know? Nobody would know that.
I bet there are people out there that do remember this.
I would have to start counting backwards from 3 races ago or whatever.
699, 698. Yeah.
I mean,
the
yes.
Yeah, the 700th race, folks, was the 2003 Brazilian Grand Prix.
Oh, what a coincidence! Now, see, I do know that race.
You
right?
do know that race.
Right, I didn't know it was the 700th race, but yes.
Because that was your Kimi win that turned in
yes.
not to a win,
Correct.
Right? Yes. So Grace does remember that. So if you're not familiar with, you're newer to Formula One, you can Google this and look it up. But the race was stopped on lap 56 after 2 major crashes on that front straight, and there was confusion over when the red flag was actually flown. So when they fly the red flag, whoever's winning or leading the race that's how the field is frozen, and that's the result, because they stopped the race on lap 56. The race was over. Initially, the win was given to Kimi Räikkönen and his McLaren, followed by Giancarlo Fisichella second in his Jordan, and then Fernando Alonso's Renault in third. And they did the podium, and I remember, Grace, at the time, even the commentators, everybody's kind of running the times back, trying to figure out, and why everybody was kind of questioning whether that was the right result or whatever. I remember they went through the whole podium ceremony.
Yeah.
Fissy wasn't up there. It was the other way around.
Yeah.
So it was Kimi, Fissy, and all that. So it was interesting because, as it turned out, the Jordan team knew something was amiss, and they protested the results. And wouldn't you know it, they were right.
Yeah.
They were leading at the red flag, and technically they won the race. And this would actually turn out to be Jordan's fourth and final race win. And it was the team's 200th Grand Prix that they made that win. And it was also the first victory for a Ford engine since the 1999 European Grand Prix.
Wow.
And the first win by an Italian since Patrese in 1992.
I just remember the next race, they had the re-ceremony. So they have this, I just remember the picture of Kimi super bored because it's Kimi. And you'd only imagine in 2003 Kimi was really bored, unlike now, and he's just kind of here.
Right.
Here's the trophy, Fissy. It was just he was just fine.
Right.
I'm well, I guess that's probably not how Fissy was envisioning his podium celebration looking like, just but here it is.
Right.
You
Yeah.
get the trophy now. Congratulations.
I remember that. Yeah, that was
Because it's Kimi, That's how he
yeah,
looks.
that was interesting. And I remember when that kind of went down, and I think even at the time there was this uneasiness about the timing, the flags, and all that stuff. It was kind of, I remember
Kind of
that happened.
counting, yellow X flags on your way to the pit lane, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, not that we're not, upset about that or anything.
No, whatever.
Whatever, yeah. So anyway, that was the 700th race.
Well, now I'll remember that. That's a
A
known
milestone.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Right. That you thought it was a McLaren win with Kimi, and
It's not just it's not like just some random, random race in Haref or something. Here we are,
yeah.
Magna Course, race 700.
There was drama that you could recall.
Right, now I'll know.
Yeah. So there you go. All right.
So make sure when we do the trivia podcast, 6 months from now, this question's in there.
Right. So let me get this queued up for our YouTube. For those of you, I don't know if anyone listening knows, but we record these on. Grace and I do Zoom calls, and we record
That's
these,
right.
and then I post these on YouTube. Some people, for whatever reason, want to watch Talking Head, and that great. But I have a picture that I'm going to share my screen, and I'll show you this. Okay, the next one up, Lewis's 700th Instagram post.
right.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen on Zoom so you can see, and you guys are going to love this. All right, here we go. We're sharing the picture. There it is in its glory.
Oh,
There
boy.
is the picture. Now, folks, you may have to, if you're listening to the podcast, you may have
Wow.
to dip into our YouTube just to pull that up and take a look at that.
That's good.
It's a glorious picture. And here's the caption for this picture. The caption says, quote, "I came into 2019 to win, was not going to let anything get in the way. And what a year it's been." How was your 2019? Well, Lewis, I didn't win the championship, and I sure the hell didn't get awesome clothes like that.
I don't even think I have 700. I know I don't have 700 Instagram posts, but I don't even think I have
No.
I probably have the most tweets, but I don't even think I have 700 tweets. So
Yeah, I know. It's
I don't know, maybe Facebook. I guess I've been on
man.
Facebook.
It's
MySpace.
glorious, though.
I might have had 700 MySpace posts, right?
Yeah, you may have. Yeah, but that's a glorious picture.
That is.
It's wonderful.
It is good. It is a good picture.
Yeah. So anyway, you guys can check
Okay.
that out. I did have to count backwards. I hope I got the count right. But either one in the row of three there, all three of those are just gems. So anyway, all right. The next up. Have you ever heard of Bernd Mailander?
Yeah, the name rings a bell.
Yeah,
I think
it
it was
rings a
right.
bell.
It was the Ferrari that was leading Mugello.
Exactly.
That also doesn't stop being funny to me. When somebody pointed that out, I didn't even make the connection, but that's right.
Yeah.
There was a
Exactly
Ferrari
right.
leading that race.
There was. That's right. So back
red
in
car, yeah.
2018,
Yeah.
Bernd had led 700 laps in Formula One, which is, as the video pointed out, which is more than some world champions have led.
Nico
That's
Rosberg.
pretty amazing if you think about it. 700 laps he's led in Formula One. That's a lot more than I thought he
Probably
would.
a lot of drivers, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know, 700.
Well, he's been in that position since 2000.
I was
And
gonna say, yeah.
he was only replaced Grace once back in 2001. He had sustained an injury, and Marcel Fassler filled in for him. But I found that amazing about him, and he's a pretty amazing guy. Back in 2005, when we started this website, he was one of 6 Mercedes-Benz drivers taking part in a record drive. 3 stock E320 CDI cars drove 100,000 miles in 30 days around the clock, which resulted in an average speed of 139.7 miles an hour, or 224.8 kilometers an hour.
Yeah, I wonder I wonder what is like how many laps is, Lewis Hamilton led or Michael Schumacher. Like, now it's an interesting question. I don't know. I'm sure there's someone.
Yeah, there's stats out there that laps.
It's probably not hard to find, but I don't know. 700 seems like a lot, but maybe it's not for somebody.
For a safety car, it seems like a lot.
Well, I don't know. Some of those years are some seasons were a little rougher than others, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, that's well, if you did, let's just do some math, shall we? 2018, and he started. When did I say 2000?
Yeah,
Okay, so
2000.
that's 18 years. So that's 700 divided by 18. That means that on average, every season he led 38 laps. So there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, I did that real math in real time.
On a real calculator, not
a
on
real
your
calculator,
phone.
yes.
Who has a real calculator?
It was. I know. Look at this piece of junk.
I
Yeah.
don't know. It's a solar-powered calculator, too.
Hey, well, me and Agog, formerly,
That's right. You're there.
Exactly. I am all about the electric calculator. You bet.
We can dance all we want because Paul's not here to make fun of us.
That's true. That's true. So I just thought that was
takes.
interesting information from our man.
That is pretty good. I didn't realize that at all.
Yeah.
All right.
Didn't either. Here's another fun fact
Okay.
about the number 700. 700 feet. The arch in St. Louis here is close to that. So it's over 600 feet. But
And it's very weird elevators that make me nervous every time I've been in them.
they do. Yeah, they go.
Yeah.
sideways, yeah.
It's one of those marveling feats of physics that I like to learn about with my feet on the ground, not learning about it and then riding up the arch in them.
Yeah, and I always think because those are completely custom, elevators that have, it's not like when one of those breaks. Like, hey, call the guy over at Otis.
Oh yeah, I was like, go get Otis on the phone.
Yeah, have the Otis guy come. Yeah, Otis guy's like, I don't know what the hell that is. Yeah,
I
good
don't
luck.
know. Yeah.
Oh,
I don't
anyway,
know.
700 feet. Back in 2000, now if you've been watching Formula One anytime, you'll remember this. Back in 2013, David Coulthard became the first person to drive an F1 car 700 feet off the ground. You may recall seeing this event on YouTube when he performed a series of donuts on the helipad on top of the Burj Al Arab Hotel at 700 feet off the ground. The event was staged to celebrate Red Bull's 4th Constructors' Championship with one Sebastian Multi-21 Vettel.
That's right.
Yeah. I don't know why they didn't have Seb doing that. I guess he was on the way out the door, maybe. I don't know.
They didn't want him to fall off.
Yeah, Coulthard is expendable. Don't put Seb up there, whatever you do. DC, whatever.
Or you know what? Honestly, though, if I was Vettel, I'd be like, it's in my contract. I can't do risky things like ride a motorbike while playing tennis. I can't do this. So
yeah. I would say, if I was somebody, I'd say, I tend to win races, but DC, he spun a lot, so put him up there.
he knows how to do a donut. He's much better at that than I am.
Yeah, he knows how to spin.
Gosh, that's.
Yeah. I remember when they did that. It was kind of like they airlifted the car up to the helipad and put it up there, and he fired it up and did donut. It was kind of cool.
Yeah.
For a visual, anyway.
Yep.
So again, I'm going to come up with 700th race. And you're thinking, we've already talked about that. Yes, we
That's right.
have, but
Didn't.
not in this context.
Okay. I was like 2 stories ago. I really was paying attention.
Yeah, I know. It
Just
seems like
talked
I'm
about this,
repeating
right?
myself, which
It's late. Who
I'm
knows?
totally capable of doing. I'm an old guy now. Let's see. Michael Schumacher will always be linked to Spa-Francorchamps because
Right.
that's where he made his debut in a Jordan. And
Mm-hmm.
he would go on to win that race 6 times.
Right.
Now, Michael Schumacher's relationship with Ferrari is legendary, but it was his second place finish at the 2004 Belgian Grand Prix that secured his 7th world championship, and it happened to be Ferrari's 700th race.
Oh.
Yes.
It's a lot better than their 1,000th race.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So intriguing times there, 700th race. How about that?
Yeah. Well, all right. Very good.
We just recently celebrated their 1,000th race.
Mm-hmm.
And my, what a different Ferrari we're looking at now.
Again, there's a red car leading, not theirs.
Yeah. So, boy, not good. That's just not good.
Although I do think, speaking of Magello, like one of the things, see now all these things I was like I should have put on the list are now slowly, coming back to
right.
me. But especially during practice, but it also happened to the race. I really thought Ann Davidson was going to slug Jenson Button. I really was waiting for that moment because that's all he did, especially again during practice when they kind of were just like freestyling, was wind Aunt Davidson up.
Oh, I know.
And at one point, even points out, he's like, "Oh, this is why I love having you in here. You take the bait every time." And you can see, I just envision Ant's like a professional. He's just like,
I know.
"This is my job. You're just a driver who waltzes in here. I'm a
Yep.
driver. This is my job, right? Like I do this every week, But I did. I was like, "Whoa, I didn't." Should put that on my bingo card. How soon before they drag Ant out of there because he slugged Jenson Button, and he deserved it.
I know.
I mean, he really just was winding him up, and everybody else just was like along for the ride. Like nobody said, "Well, let's segue to something else now." Nope, they just let that happen
I know. Yeah, that was kind of funny.
the whole time.
As a matter of fact, that race, 2004 Belgian Grand Prix, that
Yeah.
car, Sebastian Vettel, I just read this week, Sebastian Vettel said he looked into buying one of Michael's 2004 cars,
Wow.
but it was outrageously expensive. Yeah,
Yeah,
I can
right.
imagine. Yeah, it was like the all-conquering 2004
Yeah,
Ferraris.
that is the car. So
I can imagine.
yeah, I like a lug nut off of that, right? Would have been.
Yeah, right.
And that's Vettel. It's not like, Vettel's worth a few pennies rubbed together, right?
Yeah,
So,
right. You'd think he could get a deal.
yeah, maybe. Maybe not now. Maybe Leclerc could buy it for him. Like you could just drop the money off at Leclerc's house and he could
They'll
buy
give
it
it to
for you.
Charles, but
Yeah,
no,
they ain't giving it to
they're
Vettel.
charging him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy. All right. Well, the next 700 number up is
Okay.
700 horsepower. Now, when do you think Formula One finally reached the epic shove of 700 horsepower? Now, some of you veterans will know this. If you're newer, you're always thinking, well, I don't know. They're always talking about we're over 1,000 or 1,000 horsepower, and with that, now we're talking kilojoules. So we've got, the electric side of the hybrid. And that's adding to the actual horsepower of the internal combustion engine.
I don't know. Is it in that weird graphic they used last season where it's like
Yeah,
you had to
maybe.
bounce between the MKGU and the
Do you mean the
XYZ?
battle card? Oh, no, I don't know. No.
I
So
don't know. I
here's the
have no
answer.
idea.
For those of you driving, going,
I
this
don't-
is a chin stroker. So
Yeah.
we often think about F1's engines and the notion of breaking 1,000 horsepower or
Right.
close to it. And although it all changed with the hybrid power unit, the rise of more and more horsepower was always a target of the engineers.
Yeah.
It was in 1983 that Formula One
Oh.
achieved 700 brake horsepower, and this was made possible by what is known as the turbo era, when Renault created what was called the yellow teapot because it blew up a lot. When it was introduced in 1977, it generated around 400 or 500 horsepower, but the evolution of the engine finally delivered 700 horsepower by 1983, and in doing so, it won 15 Grand Prix. So there you have it. So that was the turbo era.
There you go. Makes sense.
I know somewhere some Judas Priest is going, "I'm your turbo era." I know they're doing that.
If not, we all just enjoyed you doing it. So
Yeah, thanks. Well, if not, you have to go Google it.
I enjoyed it. That was fine.
Yeah.
That was good.
All right.
Good time.
Let's see. Sounds good. Here's the next one. Hey, this is fun. This is fun and frivolity, Grace. You're going to love this one because
Okay.
it's about your man.
Get in there, Lewis.
Sounds good. 21 stops. This is the marketing
Okay.
blurb from the actual
Oh,
website. 21 stops, 5 continents, 9 months of racing. Traveling for the F1 season is a grind. That's why Lewis Hamilton always takes his Bose headphones 700 with him.
oh, very good. Very good.
Ooh, yay, Lewis.
Yeah.
Yes, the Bose headphone model is 700.
Traveling, I remember that.
Yeah, yeah, right, right.
I once did that.
Yeah, I actually have to do that tomorrow. That's
Wow.
why I'm doing the podcast tonight.
That's right. I mean,
I have
but
to
yeah,
travel
anyway.
tomorrow.
Yeah, I
And
like that.
Paul is traveling. He's been like a nomad through the COVID.
Well, I mean,
know?
but that's, it's his job. He's got to do it, as is with your job. You got to,
He
it's
just
fine.
puts that hazmat suit on and he goes.
He's like the Chick-fil-A guy.
He is.
He just
yeah.
walks around in a little,
Just a little-
plastic
yeah.
box, and he's
Exactly. Yeah,
good.
that's exactly right. So
gotta
there
do-
you go.
Got to do what you got to do. But
You do.
yeah,
So 700 degrees, Grace.
that's hot.
Possible.
Yes.
Yeah, it is hot. Yeah. No kidding.
The asphalt in Italy. Yes,
Starting to sound like Paul's kitchen. Preheat oven to 700 degrees.
that would be pretty hot. I'm pretty sure your oven doesn't go that hot.
Yes.
Like a fryer level.
Yeah, that's pretty
Okay.
hot.
Yeah.
So you might recall Valtteri Bottas complaining of the black Nomex suit that he has
Yes,
to wear
he sure
now
did. He
as
sure
being
did.
hotter due to the black color absorbing more heat.
Which I think got totally blown out of proportion. I'm sure he was just
Yeah.
like, "This is hot," and everybody's like,
Yeah.
"Oh my God, he said it was hot. Oh my God!" Right? Like,
Yeah, right. It's
I
like,
think he was just stating the obvious. It's a little warm.
a
It's a little
warm in
toasty.
there.
Yeah.
Right. Now he should be okay actually, because the Nomex fiber suits, in order to be FIA certified, have to withstand heat of 700 degrees for up to 10 seconds.
Oh well, he
How
should be
about
fine.
that? He should be fine.
Yeah, just
know,
don't stop.
It's not like he's coming off the surface of the sun.
No, but again, asphalt. It's pretty hot.
Well, I don't know. He is from Finland. It must feel like he's coming off the surface of the sun.
Maybe. I don't know. I just thought that was like a funny, like, I don't know how everything kind of gets like spun up. That's a funny thing to get spun up on. I think he's
Well,
just
Mercedes
really, like,
weren't quick to throw him back in the white overalls or the bluish,
no,
teal
they
color
really
or
told him
whatever.
too bad.
Yeah, they kind of said, well,
Duly noted.
yeah, it's in your contract. We just
See you next
signed
week,
here."
right? Like,
Right.
yeah.
So that's so we
But
he's got that going
thanks.
for him.
Thanks. We'll put your concern in the round bin, right? Like,
Right.
good. Thanks for mentioning that in your post-race discussion, your
Right.
post-race Zoom meeting.
We value your feedback.
Yes, please complete this survey at the end of this call. Yeah,
Yes.
it was really hot in that suit. I'd like not to wear it anymore. We're sorry, we're driving through a tunnel right now. We did not get your complaint. Thank you.
Right. And is it me? I'm getting so tired of apps now constantly asking me to rate how great their apps are. Aren't our apps great? Here, give us 5 stars. Here.
No, I mean, I don't know. I still
I don't give them satisfaction. I don't ever rate apps.
I don't rate anything, but
No, at this point, I'm tired of being the product. You're gonna have to pay me for that crap.
there
Sorry.
you go. I think I hate the cookie message too that's on every website that's still annoying.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I get it. Everybody uses cookies. Like why it's not like I have a choice, it's just like, do you want to download this, Mac update? Well, what
I
if
know.
no is my answer? It's
Right.
not actually an answer. So I guess if in the fine print it says you get my firstborn, oh, there's not another option here. I'd like to keep using my phone. So
I do want to deposit a check on my bank app, so
yeah,
okay.
right. So okay, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, who goes to banks?
Stupid. All right.
And clearly, I was going to say the only time I go to a bank now is either to go to my safe deposit box, which I have to because it's at the bank, or to drop off change. But who does that now? Clearly, there's a change shortage.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
No,
true.
no change in circulation now.
It's
Thank
so
you.
funny we're talking about money because the next one is 700 million pounds.
700 million pounds. Yes. Well, but not in quarters or pennies because A, that would be a whole lot.
That would
And
be a truckload.
there's not that much around.
Right. So I was reading a couple of days ago
Yep.
that there was this deal brewing for 700 million pounds to buy the Mercedes AMG Petronas team.
Wait,
Now,
like it was like up for sale? Like, wow, was there was it like a Toto Wolff, hypothetically speaking, if you were in charge of selling the team, how much would you sell it for?
right. Well, it's been debunked and everybody's denied it and everybody said it's crap.
Oh, well, it's
and
true.
they said the rumor is that the newish team sponsor Ineos is looking to buy 70% of the team for 700 million pounds. That, according to Eddie John.
I was gonna say, because when I
So
think
take that for what it's worth.
pinnacle of informative news, right? It's like Sport and Build and Eddie Jordan, right behind
Right.
like accurate information, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So everybody said, no, this is bunk and it's not happening, blah, 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 blah. So
I
anyway.
love it, Eddie.
I just thought that it was kind of interesting, though, how they came up with 700 million
right.
is equal to 70%. That's kind of interesting figure, if you think about it.
It makes the maths easy, right?
It does make the math easy.
Right? Like just...
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think it makes the math easy. That's good. Toto's got to like it.
Get down.
Yeah, I just think this is sort of,
Yeah.
I feel like this is one of those random questions that they asked Toto Wolff. Like, how much just hypothetically speaking, like a Ted Kravitz, like in his notebook, like hypothetically, how much would you sell the team for?
Or hypothetically, if a woodchuck could chuck wood.
How much would he chuck? Right.
Yeah, how much would he chuck?
Eddie Jordan just trying to come up with something.
It's Eddie.
Why would he know that? Why would that even be?
I don't know why he knows that. Or why does he think he knows that?
I don't know.
Those could be two totally different things.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
know.
Again, it's not like it's, I don't know, somebody related to the team or somebody with, it's not like John Alesi telling us about, Renault or something, right? Like, oh, well, maybe I'd be interested or,
maybe Lewis is over there, texting Eddie Jordan saying,
Didn't he learn? Did he learn that kind of stuff gets you nowhere?
It gets you nowhere, man. You stop doing that, Lewis. It just gets you nowhere.
I don't know.
Speaking of Lewis, my next interesting tidbit is dog days. Oh. Now, you all know that Lewis Hamilton makes millions of dollars for his sponsorships and endorsements, right?
Right.
But did you also know that he has an alternative revenue stream in the Hamilton home?
Okay.
You might be asking,
Please do not say Nicole Scherzinger. Let's never.
No, and normally you might say, okay, yeah, it's his dad. His dad's pretty opportunistic guy. It's going to be not his dad. Not his dad.
Right.
The real moneymaker in the Hamilton house right now is his dog Roscoe.
Oh.
Because Lewis Hamilton, is that the one that just died?
No, Coco's the one that just died.
Coco's the one that just died. Okay. So Roscoe, his dog is earning $700 a day, Lewis said.
What the hell am I doing? First of all.
I know.
I have 4 cats. You have 2 cats. What are we doing?
I know.
We're not doing this right.
Here, I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to do more math for you. $700 and let's say 300 days a year. Roscoe's making over 200 grand a year.
You get to pay taxes on that? What the hell?
Yeah. I mean, Lewis's freaking dog could make, if he worked 300 days a year, could make 200 grand. Let's say he doesn't do that. Let's say he only works half that, 150, half a year.
Oh.
It's $105,000.
All right, my cats are slackers. They need to get it together.
My cats they better start bringing in some money. They're out of here. So.
That's right. And so better be getting on that.
Here's what he said. This is what Lewis said, quote, He's paid $700 a day while receiving many rewards, which he loves very much.
I bet he does.
Roscoe is now part of a fashion agency and is auditioning for applications against 10 or 15 to a different bulldog. I don't even know how that happens. I don't even know what's going on there.
All right, this is of all the stories so far, this is the one that's piqued my interest the most.
I know.
I have so many questions here.
I don't know. If I came from a couch in Stevenage and I had a bulldog that I could loan out for $700
$700.
why not?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Again, my cats
Why
are
not?
slackers. They catch crickets. That's about
I know.
their useful skill, right? I mean,
mean,
$700 a day.
There's Lewis and what Lewis makes, and Lewis's dog makes more money than most of the drivers on that grid.
God.
It's crazy. So all those paying drivers don't make it there. They pay. And then you have Roscoe over here making, serious bank. So good for him.
And a bulldog of all dogs. Like,
Yeah.
I love bulldogs. They don't really do much, right? Like, it's not like
Right.
bulldog. It's not like, a retriever or a
Bichon
I mean?
Frise or a,
Right.
yeah.
He's not out there like saving the world. Nobody, again, I love bulldogs, but nobody's like, oh my God, that bulldog saved the world. That's not the breed you'd expect that would be saving the world. I mean, what if he had a
That's crazy.
lab? Like, a golden doodle. How much money would he be making with a golden doodle? Those things are
I don't know,
adorable.
$20? I don't know.
I don't know. Golden doodles are adorable.
They are adorable. All right.
I don't know.
Next one.
All right.
A weighty subject. Okay. So maybe it isn't exactly 700.
Womp womp. Oh, heavy. Nice.
Heavy.
Wavy soda. Got
Heavy.
it. Okay.
I know. Yeah, it's pretty weak.
They can't all be good.
No,
How
they
can you
can't.
follow up Roscoe though? Like that's
Well, where do you go from there, really?
that's tough, man.
Yeah, where do you go?
That's
You know?
fine.
So maybe this isn't exactly 700. I'm taking some liberties here, but it's there or thereabouts. In 2014, a Formula One car weighed its weight increased to 691 kilograms, almost 700 kilograms. And in 2017, it increased even more to 728. So I've got 700 bookend right there.
Okay.
So if you said a Formula One car weighs around 700 kilograms, you're kind of there.
Okay.
It's, what is that, 1,600
Yeah.
pounds, whatever it is, right around there. So it's pretty close to 700 kilograms.
I also realized that because both Checo and Vettel news happened while I was not doing podcasts either.
Yeah, that's
That was
right.
Also, Checo. I can't.
I know.
You like my bass? You like it?
I do.
don't
He should
think-
be in the
yeah.
sport. It's not right.
I don't think it had anything to do with your pace at the end of the day.
No, exactly. It had to do with who your father is or isn't.
Right.
But I mean, Checo, like I don't know, like I feel like he's like my new Williams, right? Like if there's somebody I could get to succeed just on pure like, wishful thinking or hope or whatever, that
It's Checo. Yeah.
I was just like, oh, I mean, we all knew it was going to
Checo.
happen, right?
Yeah.
And we knew that Vettel had to go somewhere, and there are only
Well, all's not lost. I kind of feel like Checo's got backing from Carlos Slim, or at least he did.
yeah.
And it seems to me that right now Gene could use a handful of cash to get him to the regulation
You want to
changes.
go to Haas though?
Well, I would, yeah. And if I was Gene, I would do that. And here's why.
Well,
Because
if
the
I was
cars
Gene,
aren't going to
yes.
change next year. So that means he's going to suck air next year.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to be at the back of the grid. And somebody's got to pay for running around at the back of the grid. And Gene would prefer, because Gene's an astute guy, he doesn't want to pay for that. But if he brought Checo in with Carlos money behind him, that would offset the operation next year and get him to the regulation changes in 2022. That's what I would do, but
I don't know. Checo
what do
and
I know?
Grosjean? I don't know.
No. Checo and Magnussen.
No, they're going to keep Grosjean.
No. I think Grosjean, he may
Well,
not be long for the Formula One world.
I just like the messiness. Just like I really wanted Vettel to go to Renault so that it could be Renault and,
Right.
with Renault could have
With
Alonso and Vettel. Not that I think it's a good idea, but from a messiness perspective, that's the best idea.
I think that would have been awesome. Alonso and Vettel at Renault.
I just think they would have picked at each other the whole time. I mean,
Yeah,
I
I don't
don't.
know. I think
Alonso doesn't strike me as
they're
the
older, wiser. I don't know.
maybe. I mean, it's certainly not going to be the Vettel Kimi Raikkonen love affair. That was clearly
No.
one direction. Kimi was just
Yeah,
like,
right.
"You're right. We're best friends. Whatever."
Yeah, they were besties. All right, next up I have
Okay.
stop. A Formula One brake is a critical element of the car
Yes.
for obvious reasons.
Yes,
And unlike our road cars, they use carbon discs and carbon pads.
that's
Now,
right.
we don't have those on our average road car because it takes serious heat to get them into the working window in the neighborhood of 200C. You have to get that heat up there to when they start
Yeah.
actually working. But these brakes have limits too, and they begin to reach their peak heat limit at 700 degrees
Very
centigrade.
good. Very
At
good.
700 degrees centigrade, they experience, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Thermal oxidation.
Oh, that's good.
That's a big
I hate
word.
it when that happens.
I don't even know what the hell I just said there.
Gosh.
Which accelerates wear. Managing these thermal peaks is the key to controlling the wear. So just know that when you see those brake discs and rotors all glowing under braking, they're in that 700
Smoking.
range or more. Yes.
I think Gold Bond is the solution for that.
I think so.
Or
I think
thermal
gold-
oxidation.
Gold Bond. Yeah, it's perfect.
It's everything.
I like it. I don't know. You could put some Flex Seal on it.
Hi, Phil Swift here for Flex Seal.
Why not? Yeah.
It solves every problem known to man. You could make it into a submarine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Let's see.
All right.
All right. And then finally of the 700s is 700 downloads.
Oh,
Now, I can't recall the date, folks. I wish I could.
Okay.
I cannot recall the date, but it was early on in 2007 when we reached 700 downloads of our podcast. And
gosh.
while we do that now like tenfold on a monthly basis, in those days, I can still recall trying to get my head around the fact that there were 700 people
Yeah.
somewhere out there in the world who had downloaded our podcast. And I
that
just
weren't
couldn't
Nick
get my head around it.
Heidfeld's mom.
Yeah, exactly. That wasn't like anyone in my family or friend,
Right.
Nick Heidfeld's mom,
Right.
right? So it was
Yeah, it's
amazing
crazy.
to me.
It's
I
still
know.
crazy how many people.
It is.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and now we're a long ways from that on a monthly
Right.
basis,
I
and
don't know.
and I just couldn't get my head around it. I mean, it's incredibly. I remember even back then thinking how humbling that was. So you can imagine how Grace and Paul and I feel now, given our
Yeah.
download numbers now. It's stunning,
crazy.
crazy and humbling and frightening, all the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
all of those things. All
I
of
can't
them.
believe this many people are listening. But
Yeah. It's great.
hi.
What's up?
So, as I said at the lead-in, look, we're not everybody's cup of tea. I get it. I've read the comments critical of our soundboard. They don't like my soundboard drops, or they're critical of my sense of humor, or whatever Grace says, or my suggestions that that we don't know anything, that our podcast is too long, or our podcast is too short, or there's too much preamble, it's not in depth enough, or there's not enough levity in our podcast. I've read all the differing angles. Having said all that, I have always enjoyed doing these and always enjoyed reaching out and making these for the people that appreciate them.
But I think there are far more people that we are their cup of tea. They do enjoy listening to us. They send us, funny tweets. You know what I think? The fantasy league team names alone.
Oh, I know.
is
Yes.
Great, right? Like there's so many.
Yes.
Like I love that there's a team that Botas McBoaty face. Like
Yeah.
right? There's so many inside jokes in those team names, and I'm like, and then some of
Yeah.
them we were looking through them, and I'm laughing, and I had to explain to Flip like, oh, that's why that was funny. I totally forgot about like that inside joke that we had made 7 podcasts ago or whatever. So
Right.
I think
There's
that,
so many. That was always the thing, though, Grace. As we started out, you and I, we would always make these jokes with each other. We
Yeah.
would laugh about it, and so we were recording, so our listeners went along with us on the
Yeah.
journey and those jokes. But I remember it's one of those things, and I wanted to say it was around podcast maybe 200 or something, 150, something like that. As we gained in popularity and more people downloaded it, you and I would say the same sort of like shake, shake,
Yeah.
shake, Magic 8 Ball,
That
shake,
was a
shake,
great
shake.
one, right?
And everybody's like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. What are you talking about? And to their credit, they're new to the podcast, so they wouldn't have known.
They don't even know who Nick Fry is now, right?
Right. They don't know who Nick Fry is or why I'm always talking about Nick Heidfeld or anything of that.
Yeah, that's right.
And so there, a long time ago, somebody asked me, this is a long time ago, folks, somebody asked me if I'd write a post where I'd put down all these sort of jokes that we say and explain why we're saying them.
Yeah.
And I did at the time. I don't even know if I can find that. But so anyway, if here would be fun though. If you've been listening, some of you out there have been listening since like the beginning, right, or near thereabouts. And there's some inside jokes that we used to say that Grace and I have forgot about that we don't say anymore. Ping us and let us know what those are, because I can't remember all of them, but there were some inside jokes that we constantly went to that were fun.
The Magic 8 Ball as a strategy decider is still a great one. I think the Magic 8 Ball does live with Ferrari. I think that's great. What do we go with? Plan A, Plan B. I think Plan C is go straight to the airport, right?
Right.
I think the Magic 8 Ball is the Ferrari.
Yeah, that started around the BAR Honda with Nick Fry and everybody, and we were talking about what the heck are that? Who's doing the strategy? Who's making the decisions? And every time something would happen and they'd pass the buck around, and if you listen to Jensen Button talk about it, it was like nobody really fessed up, and it was like committee. And so Grace and I were always like, it was car by committee, it's race strategy by committee. So at this point, we thought that the team just had one of those black magic 8 balls in the team garage, and whenever they had to make a decision, they go shake, shake, shake. Likely.
Time to pit, right?
Yeah, time to pit. Should we box? Shake, shake, shake. Not likely. Okay, don't pit. Yeah.
Once more, go around, right?
Yeah, right. So that's where that joke came from all those years ago.
It's
And it was like you had to be there, because at the time, if you were living through the debacle that was happening,
Team Barf won. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, Team Barf 1 was hysterical.
It was something.
You would appreciate it more.
So anyway. I'm sure there's a lot of those.
Yeah. So all those years ago, 700 downloads to we've had millions of downloads now, many millions of the podcast now. So yeah, it's very humbling, and and still look, we're Yankees, we're Americans, and but there's a lot of people listening to us in the UK and Australia and Europe and APAC and LATAM. So it's just mind-numbing. So for all of you out there, the Yankees, of course, know that we appreciate it, and they're awesome, and they've always been our main crowd. But to all of our British listeners, all of our Australian and APAC and EMEA, and all of our friends down in LATAM. So huge thank you for getting us to podcast number 700. That is a big, big, big step for us. And it's we're just humbled and elated to do this. And I apologize, I didn't have like some riveting breaking news for podcast number 700, but I thought it'd be fun just to chat, I
don't know. I learned things.
Yeah, we always said from day one, and I've heard it a million times by a lot of other podcasts, but back when we started this, we were always like, we're just Grace and our two friends having a beer, chatting about the sport we love, and that's what we're doing, and we're just doing that with you guys. So,
I think it really came about, when I started, contacting you and then writing for your blog. This was before the internet was really what it is now, right?
Mm-hmm,
and so, I just, I always remember thinking, especially because Formula One is on like 6:30 in the morning, right?
Yeah.
I can't go to like some pub somewhere and watch it with my friends or other strangers or something like, and so you feel very alone, right? And I once watched a race with a friend, and she was like, you talk to like Bob Varsha and those guys as if you're watching it with them. I'm like, oh, right, because Steve's the only person I talk to, right? Because I don't know anybody else that watches Formula One.
That's true.
And so I think that, it was really isolating in the early 2000s, and that I think every time somebody says, "Oh, the internet is terrible," I think, but this is why the internet isn't always terrible, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So I think that there are so many people that I know that I have met at races or talked to about sports on Twitter that I wouldn't have any contact with. I'd still just be watching in my basement by myself at 6:30 in the morning. No longer talking to Steve and Hobbs and Varsha, but by myself because there just wasn't that kind of connection. And so I
Yeah.
think that's really helped us grow. But I remember we were talking about we should do a podcast. It was because you were the only other person I knew. So I'd be like, I'd call you and be like, oh
Right.
my God, oh my God, this thing, oh my God. And we were just like, well, why don't we just tape this?
Yeah,
right? Like
why not?
instead of us just telling each other, why
Right.
don't we have these same conversations, record them, see if other people want to listen to them. So I really do think it did come from, two friends having a beer at a bar. That's really what it
Yeah.
came out of, is that these were just conversations we were having anyway. And
they were
recording them.
just stuff, even back in, like, when did I join Twitter? 2009, I think, when
Yeah.
I joined Twitter. And even back then, I was like posting tweets of the day, right? That I would scan the social media back in 2009, and
Right.
and everybody's doing that and has already done that and all that. But we were doing that back in 2009 and had a lot of fun with it. And there was a lot of things we did back then. But at the end of the day, I also get people saying, "Oh, you guys really should do this and evolve your show to this." And
Yeah.
these guys are doing this on YouTube, and they've got this whole production, and they're doing these videos, and folks, look, I appreciate that you love those that other content, and that's great, and it's great content,
Right.
and I think it's great. But I have a day job, and so does Grace,
Right.
and there's only so much that we can do. So I am elated that we can at least get on and have these great conversations with all of you.
So, I mean, I think that's where this all comes back to, right? Is the community we formed here, whether it's, you
Yeah.
always talk about, like, there's people that only go to the website, there's people only that go to the message boards, there's, people that only interact with the Monday, tweet thing at 5 o'clock. I think that there's so many ways for us to interact with people, and that I really feel like I've made friendships, as much as that
Right.
can be with
Right.
somebody you've never met, or, over the internet. And I just think that the community is why we keep doing this, and that, for any time that somebody's like, oh, you were wrong, which literally every podcast, I'm sure I say something wrong, or I've met people that are like, oh, you really do sound like that. I'm like, yeah, that's right. Like, I remember the first time I ever met Sean Kelly, and he was like, you really do say dude as much in person as you do on the podcast.
Yeah,
I'm like, yeah,
right.
I say dude a lot,
Yeah,
it's who we are. And, Paul is exactly like this, and Todd's exactly
He
like
is.
this. And
Yeah.
so I think that, we certainly wouldn't have made it through 700 podcasts if it wasn't for the community that
for
listens,
sure.
that gives us feedback, that interacts with us, that sends us fashion, that sends us funny tweets. I think that
Yeah. And they always have great ideas. Hey, you got to try this or that, or
send us
it's just,
questions.
it's
Yeah,
great.
I think it's
great.
just been great to get to know people, and especially having started this endeavor when I thought there was nobody in Formula One in the United States, because that's what we're always told, right? Like, oh, well, Formula One isn't as big in the United States. No, it's not as big as it is in England or Germany, but it's not as small as I was led to believe either. And that there are a lot of people who really do care about open wheel racing and Formula One. And
Yeah, absolutely.
so
Yeah, we always kind of have that a reputation, but there's what 320, 330 million people here. There's a lot of Formula One fans in America. So anyway, I am going to hold on the mailbag until next week, but I will get to some of your questions next week. But
because I was like, I hope you have answers to these questions.
I do have answers. But
I surely don't.
in the spirit of brevity, I'm going to do those next week. But I am going to ask, before we bail out of this podcast, normally we have awards, but this time I'm going to ask 3 topics. What was the biggest topic, Grace, of the first 700 episodes that we've done? And then you can have more than one, just some of the biggest topics that you can recall.
I think I think everybody's answer, I don't know how it couldn't be this, is Spygate. I think that just really changed the sport. It changed the way
it started McLaren's trajectory.
Yeah. So I think it just really, and while there's been other scandals like Crashgate, or there's been other things along the way, nothing quite like Spygate, where you just saw a top team just be moved to the back of the grid and lose other points. And I was just, that still, I think, is always going to be a big storyline.
It was a defining moment. I had Spygate. I also think the current hybrid engine regulations is a big topic.
I also put, one of my favorite big topics is Ferrari's leaving. Guess what? We're leaving. Hey, we're leaving.
Right.
You can't survive without us. We're leaving.
And also, Audi's coming. Audi's coming. Audi's coming. Audi's going to join
Volkswagen,
F1.
we talked to them. Right. The Volkswagen
Not
groups are
happening.
joining. Right.
Yeah,
I think that, right. So there's always those kind of like, we always joke about, the biggest secret since Ralph Schumacher, right? Like, going to the computer, right? So I always think a big topic is always Ferrari's leaving. And so when something happens and there's agreement and Ferrari never threatened to leave, it feels very foreign to me as a, long time
right.
watcher of, the early Ferrari, because they don't do that as much now, but it used to always be like, well, if you don't get it our way, we're leaving.
Right.
There'll be nothing. Well, okay.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Let's see. What was, here's what I had. The biggest disappointment of the first 700. Now, there's a disclaimer. Obviously, right up front, I would say Jules Bianchi, but
yeah.
I was thinking maybe a little more levity. Nothing quite as dire as that.
Sure.
But clearly that takes the cake.
Sure.
But Bianchi was standing. Some of the other things that I thought were disappointments was the 2010s with their regulatory stagnation, running this hybrid thing out for 6, 7, 8 years. It's just too long. It just handed multiple championships and dominance to Mercedes. And I realize there's a lot of reasons that they didn't change all this because they were going through the Concord. They're going through a lot of stuff. I get it, but all of that created the stagnation that we're feeling now. The imbalanced financial viability of teams. I think of Max Mosley's, cost cap and the HRTs and those teams that came in and then withered on the vine. I thought that was such a disappointment when we could have had these young, fresh teams in. The sale of F1 twice, not once, but twice,
right.
in Bribegate, and then a refusal to do what the series needed to do to remain competitive, and just being so anchored in the black art of aerodynamic downforce and not in dirty air and all the stuff that made these cars not able to pass. And it just everyone in the room can see the elephant in the room, but nobody wants to take that elephant out either in whole or piece by piece. And it's and that's been disappointing, I think.
Right.
What's anything that jumps to your mind?
Sure. I have the 2005 USGP. I think that was a bit of a disappointment. I was trying to find I think it is the MP418. Wasn't that the terrible car that Kimi Räikkönen was in? That the McLaren when he was with McLaren.
Yeah, one of them was stillborn. Was it the 17 or 18 or 14? Right in there.
Yeah, it was in there like. I think it was the 17 that then became the 18, right? So anyway, that was a real low point for me as a McLaren fan. Was Kimi's years at McLaren with the MP4 17 or 18. Somebody knows, and if I had read the notes more than 5 seconds before the podcast, because Todd sent them a long time ago, I just didn't read them. It's all on me.
Right.
I could have looked that up, but I think it's like the 18. I think. Anytime I try to talk about WRC, that's always a bit of a disappointment.
Yes.
And anytime I leave my laptop plugged in until some point in the show when Tom's like, unplug it, we can hear it. That's a terrible noise.
There's always this ground loop noise going.
Yeah. And it's funny because, of course, when it's just Todd and I can't hear my own laptop making that noise, but I can hear Paul's. And so I'm like, it's super annoying. And Paul's always like, but I can leave it unplugged for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, Paul's like, well, okay, whatever, I'll unplug it, but I'm off the call in 5 minutes. So he's like, okay, Paul, leave it plugged in. We'll deal with it,
So I also go with, anytime I forget and leave my laptop plugged in during the show. And at some point I clearly go, and I remember that I'm never supposed to do that, but I forget. So I list that.
I had then finally the biggest surprises of the first 700. I think the current situation with McLaren has really surprised me, trying to, find somebody to buy their building and then do a lease with them. I think that is it's sad, truly sad. The sale of Williams, that's a bit of a surprise. Spankgate, I can't lie, that was quite a surprise.
How did you put these things together. McLaren, Williams, Spankgate.
Spankgate. Yeah, that was a bit of a surprise for me to wake up in the morning.
Things I'd like to like scrub from my brain.
I know. It was like, oh, Max Mosley caught in, this. And I was like, what? No. And then, then magazines started showing the pictures like, ooh, that is Max.
Right.
That's
like,
oops. Okay.
It's one of those
It was a bit of a surprise.
Total Memories of a Spotless Mind or whatever that movie is, right? Where the whole thing is like you erase things from your memory, and then Jim Carrey's trying to get rid of his ex. I really just want to get Spankgate out of my brain.
I know.
The X is in there. That's okay. That makes me who I am. But Spankgate, I'd be good with never knowing about that.
Yeah. The US GP in 2005 was a disappointment, as you said. It was a bit of a surprise.
It was certainly a surprise.
They couldn't come up with a more elegant solution than that.
Yeah.
I also had Maldonado winning in Spain.
I wonder what's causing all the accidents.
That was a bit of a surprise.
I love that. And I love the meme of him, like Alonso, like holding him up on his shoulder. Like, that's great. That's... Yeah. We know, but,
Yeah. Rosberg's retirement was a bit of a surprise to me.
Yeah, I think so.
That was a little surprise. Now, everything he's doing now and afterwards is not a surprise at all, knowing him.
No, he is who he is, right?
Yeah, he is, yeah. The sale of F1 and then firing Bernie. That was a bit of a surprise.
Yeah.
Fire him. And then finally, I would say that it's a bit of a surprise that we've actually made the 700 episode.
I don't know. Yeah. Maybe.
So.
Okay.
What surprises you?
I thought this would be on your list. Michael Schumacher's retirement from Ferrari.
Yeah.
Totally caught me by surprise. And I remember
I remember that.
I just really, because you again, right? We talked about, the biggest rumor since the best kept secret since Ralf Schumacher to Toyota, right? They'd been talking about it, but it just didn't seem real. It was Michael Schumacher, and he didn't really seem ready to go. And then he wasn't ready to go, right? And they showed back up at Mercedes, but it was just like,
and it was such a weird deal for Ferrari. It's like, Michael's like, well, I'm going to do it to make room for my friend Felipe Massa. Thinking, what? Yeah. If you were a Ferrari fan at that time, as much as I like Felipe, you weren't thinking that Felipe was a 1-to-1 replacement for Michael Schumacher.
Right. Rubens Barrichello,
I was like, okay, well, Felipe, he can stay, sure, he can stay on,
I just think, it was basically Michael Schumacher I think we've all experienced that when some, like your CEO, your president, or somebody of your company leaves, and they're like, I'm going to go spend more time with the grandchildren. That's not the right reason, right? They're really not leaving to spend time with their family.
Right.
That's always, so he kind of, his response was very much like, well, I'm going to go spend more time with my family. And then he showed up again. And so I just think that was, I was a huge surprise. And it's Michael Schumacher. It's Michael Schumacher, right?
I know. Yeah, that was a big surprise. I agree.
I also thought when Hamilton left McLaren, although understandable, but it was a huge risk. I really think that nobody thought that was a good idea, at the time. And
I actually did. That came out wrong. Yeah, that came out wrong. I remember supporting it and arguing that it was a good decision. And not because I'm saying I was right and you were wrong. I'm not saying that.
Right.
I was gambling a little bit on my endorsement of it, just like I think Lewis was on the move. But for whatever reason, I thought the politics at McLaren, where Lewis was just maturity-wise, where he was mentally with Ron, what was going on there. His dad was sort of going through this thing, and for all the right reasons. Look, when you go from a couch and Stevenage to driving $1 million cars and getting handed all this stuff, and it's difficult to navigate that change in life. And I have a lot of deference for Lewis's dad and everything that was going on. But I could kind of see, and in my mind, that arc had pretty much reached its zenith. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And so for me, it made a lot of sense for him to go to Mercedes and just claim that entire team,
Yeah, I agree. I just think it seemed like he'd been with McLaren for so long.
I know.
Since he was 8 or whatever. It just was kind of a big shock when it did, and that it didn't seem like it was going to work. And then,
And it was also prescient because I can't say that I knew this at the time because I didn't.
Right.
But I think Lewis certainly did have hints that Mercedes is going to pull that engine supply
Yeah.
at some point.
And I think from a personal side, right? Like, I mean, Ron Dennis is no longer at McLaren, but I think if Ron
Right.
Dennis was still at McLaren, that wasn't going to work any longer. You
No.
know, I mean,
Nice,
McLaren
Right. Right.
wanted too much control over who he was and
Yeah.
his Instagram and his $700 a day dog, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there was no way Lewis Hamilton would be who he is today
Yeah.
and still be at McLaren. So
No,
I
and
just,
Toto's never put a fence around him. you
no,
know?
and they're very supportive of him, which I
Yeah.
think makes total sense. But so I just think that I don't know. It was a bit of a shocker, and
Yeah.
it really worked out. And it's kind of surprising that it worked out as well as it did. And I think watching, all the old footage, like watching old races during the, while we were waiting for the season to start and all that kind of stuff, like how young Lewis was in comparison to now.
Yeah. Right.
Kind of like Vettel. I feel like Vettel hasn't aged either, but then you watch, when he was with Red Bull, and you're like, oh God, he really has
Totally
aged,
has
right?
aged,
He
yeah.
really is an older guy now.
Yeah.
But so I think that was a big shock for me. And then I think going back to the listeners, I remember the one feedback that sticks with me the most is when the individual wrote in and said that they were learning English by listening to us. And I suddenly like even now, like I'm a very slouchy kind of person. I felt like, I'm going to speak in like noun, verb, direct objects. I'm going to but I get it, right? He was trying to kind of learn the slang and learn
Yeah. Right.
the hardest part to learn about a language. And so it makes total sense that you'd want to learn conversational English from listening to a podcast
Yeah.
about something you're interested in already, right? But it was I just felt a lot of surprise and pressure all of a sudden to be like, don't be such a slouch all the time. Somebody is learning
I
something
know.
very important to them from what you say to them. And it just,
Yeah.
you just kind of do this thing, and I'm just talking to you, and I forget that other people are listening, and that
I know.
I was
That's
really
amazing.
surprised that somebody would said that. And I hope we helped per individual that
Yeah.
was learning English from listening to our
yeah,
podcast.
it's like-
I hope we helped you.
It's like the surprises when I was standing next to Alexander Rossi and this delightful young woman from APAC, I can't remember which country, came up and wanted my autograph, and I kept pointing her to Alex.
Yeah,
No, Alex is the driver. Alex is the driver. It's like, no, and I couldn't understand her because of very broken English, but she was,
Yeah.
and she kept pointing me, and I'm pointing at Alex because I knew she was mistaking me for the Formula One driver. And I kept pointing, and finally she said, "No, you make podcasts." I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Yeah, I want your autograph." I'm like, what? That's Alexander Rossi. Trust me, you want his autograph. You don't want
He's
mine.
going to be big things. I'm still going to be the dude
he's-
doing a podcast, right?
This guy's going to win the Indy 500. I'm not doing anything like that. And
Right.
she said that she was, her and all of her friends listened to the podcast, and they were
That's
learning
great.
English off of it.
Yeah,
It was
see, that's
delightful.
great.
Yeah, so
I mean,
she
that
was
was-
wonderful.
I just think of all the things that 700 podcasts ago, and we talked about, should we do this? I mean,
Yeah,
this was
right.
really before I don't know. It seems like, I remember once telling somebody that I dated people off of Craigslist, and they were like, oh, that's where serial killers are. I'm like, well, in the 2000s, that's the only way that online dating existed. We didn't have eHarmony and all these other things. It was Craigslist. That's how you dated people. So, but now it would be just serial killers. But it was the same way. There really wasn't a video, a YouTube component to this.
Yeah,
Podcasts
no,
are still really a new thing. And
Oh, that was
so-
like in the nascent days of podcasts.
yeah, we never I never thought, oh, people might learn English
Yeah.
from us. So I think that's such a surprise to me that there's all these other, much like I talk about the community and how I never realized how many friends I would make, or that, I go to races and I'm like, you just, you meet people that listen to you every week, and it's humbling, right?
Yeah,
and
it is. Totally.
it's just really great. And so that was always one of the comments that surprises me when people say those kind
Yeah.
of things. I'm like, well, that was never something Todd and I discussed as a
Never.
reason to get into this.
No,
That never crossed
we
my
didn't set
mind.
out to be Rosetta Stone, software,
you
Que
know,
pasa,
maybe-
amigo, no pasa nada.
But I also always joke too that if you're a MotoGP fan, you must think that all Americans sound like Nikki Hayden, right? It's a
Yeah,
big
right.
country, and even though I'm sort of East Coast and you're Midwest, you kind of get some of the big country feel in here.
Right.
But none of us sound like Nikki Hayden. So
No, that's true. All right. Well, that does it for this podcast, folks. I hope you made the journey through this whole thing with you. I'm sorry it was a bit of a scattergun approach, but I was just having fun with the number 700 and thinking of Formula One and how it applies to Formula One. And I thought, I'm just going to start Googling and going down rabbit trails around the number 700 and see what I can find.
So I have a random 700. So
Yeah.
is Russia still going to have fans? I know they talked about that.
They're going to have 700 fans.
Yeah. Or 700 people going to get COVID is what I was thinking. Like, are they really
Right.
still going to have fans in Russia? Like, that was a
Yeah,
big...
and I think Portugal, did I read today that they sold 45,000 tickets?
Well, Portugal didn't have the rates that I think Russia has, right?
Right.
I mean, and maybe, right, maybe it's not a good idea for Portugal to do it either.
Right.
But I just think Russia might be having a little bit of the denial soup, right? So
Right.
maybe full stands, maybe not a great idea, but
I don't know.
I know. I mean, they had fans in Mugello, and they had
Yeah.
them in the MotoGP race. They had them at San Marino, but they were like they're doing with football. Like there's sections between them, right?
Yeah, sure.
Your little
No, I
bubble
don't
sits
know.
in your little section.
Well, yeah, I'm kind of intrigued to see how they'll do that. So, but I'm glad they're bringing some of them back anyway.
Yeah, bring some fans back. Fine.
Yeah.
I can get that. But it's a long line at the waffle truck, the breakfast waffle taco truck in Austin. So
Yeah. Well,
careful, people.
segment and safeguard, right? Segment and protect. So
That's right. Something.
Yeah,
I just think. I mean, you've been to a race. I've been at any series. Like, there's no distance. You are literally almost sitting on the person beside your lap on Sunday, right? Like, you are
right.
so packed in there. Like, there's no.
that'll have to be different. Yeah.
I hope so. Or a lot
All
of
right,
plastic
folks.
dividers.
That is podcast number 700. Have you ever heard the word 700 enough? Probably.
Or the face shields, the like Toto Wolff, Andy Reid face shields.
That would be good.
Give those to everybody.
That'd be good. I think Lewis going around on his electric scooter with a face shield on would be good.
I love the scooter. I love the idea of like, oh, it's a red flag. Hold on, I'm gonna go talk to Mike Messi. And
Well, I'm just glad that
talk to
he
the FIA.
finally bucked up and bought his PA one.
yeah, right. So she can follow along.
And now at least she's not running around behind him. She's on her
Carrying
own.
his helmet and all his crap.
Yeah,
and his
she's the
Brillo
one
bag.
carrying all the crap. Lewis is just woo.
Oh, look at me on my
Yeah,
scooter.
I know, and she's like carrying. She's got like 16 fanny packs on her.
Yeah,
and-
right,
and
right.
She's got all this stuff that she's carrying, and
She's
finally-
coming 700 pounds. At least she's got a scooter now.
That's right. She's carrying 700 pounds.
That's right.
And she's got 700 scrunchies in her bag there for. Anyway, all right.
All right.
Well, that does it for
Very
this
good.
podcast. We'll be back next weekend to talk about the Russian Grand Prix. Until that time, stop by theparkfermé.com. Share your opinions. Just do it with decorum and civility. If you like the podcast, go to iTunes and give us a good rating. And a huge, huge thank you to all of you Patreon supporters out there. We couldn't and wouldn't do this podcast for 700 times without you. And if we're going to do 700 more, we wouldn't and couldn't do it without you. So thank you so much for your support. It means the world to us. And until next week, when we come back to do it all over again, this is Todd, a.k.a. Negative Camper, saying so long. Grace?
See you in a couple weeks.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.